I'm great, Mikey. How are you?
I am doing great as well. To kick us off, I thought I would ask you a question. We're talking about breakthroughs. What do you think the main challenges that people come up against when they're trying to break through for themselves?
To me, just looking back on my experience, it always boils down to a few things. First of all, most people don't know how to think. They're not thinking, they're just reacting. Number two, they're focusing on the wrong things. I think all of you know what you should be doing, but you're not doing it. Like, what if I said all of you already know right now how to double your income? I really believe that. Now, you have to do it in a certain way. And then, the biggest thing is people are unwilling to commit. They're unwilling to truly commit. And unless we commit, nothing happens. I was telling Mikey this morning, I study Viktor Frankl's work pretty closely. And he has a great quote. He says, "Decisions, not conditions, determine what a man is." We're making decisions every day. And it's determining our character, the type of decisions we're making. But what happens is if you have a lot of distractions right now, because everything is a distraction from our goal, just about everything, unless you're really thinking. And what happens is you are going to constantly have something get in the way. I'm going to do it next. I'm going to do it when this happens, right? So those are the biggest challenges. And, my life changed significantly. I've shared it on so many occasions, is when I went all in and got the right mentorship. That's when my life changed. I had been studying this. I didn't know what the hell I was studying, honestly. If I'm being honest, I was just gathering more and more information. But when I got specialized direction, my life changed. There was something my mentor used to teach me, and he learned it from Earl Nightingale. Earl told Bob, and Bob told me, there's a big difference between knowledge and experience. He said, knowledge has no benefit unless you do a thing. Experience is when you've done it. See, when I teach in our programs, I don't wonder if it works. I know it works. So I can communicate effectively to my clients because they know that I know it works. You know the truth when the truth is in front of you because it resonates with the essence of who we are. Now, a lot of people are going out, they're reading books. I hope this works. I hope that works. But they're not committing to transformation. And until we transform, personal freedom is impossible. When we transform, that's when your life is going to become magical. Every single one of you is going to create an emotional breakthrough in this hour or so. Let's create an intention before we do this. Intention is frequency of thought, and you just accept that idea right away.
So I've made the decision to be in that room with you and your team. What's the intention and attitude that I can prepare myself with now to step into that room and to really transform?
Well, I want you to open your heart, and I want you to build an image of what is going to transpire in your life from being in that room. But I want you to show up full out. I want you to let go of your past assumptions. And I want you to understand that you are going to create a massive transformation. I'm not doing this event just to do it. I have a lot of things I can do. But, you brought up one of my favorite words, attitude. Because our attitudes are the thoughts you think in your conscious mind. So I want you to come in with a powerful thought. I am absolutely transforming like I've never done before. I am not holding back. Okay? Now, that thought you impress in your subconscious mind for the next 2 weeks. You impress it, and it's going to cause you to feel a certain way. It's going to cause you to feel certainty. And those feelings cause the way you're going to act on an unconscious level. That's attitude. And so that's what I want you to fill your mind with.
I'm coming to Transform in Phoenix, and my question is, what suggestions do you have for me working around the edges of my full-time job for the next 14 months?
Okay, so what I'd like you to do is every morning, I'd like you to write exactly what you want to do after your full-time job's over, okay? Mm-hmm. Our story is so important, so I want you to start right now. You have 14 months. I want you right now to build an enormous image of yourself, an enormous image. And I don't want you to get distracted by other people who are not going the direction you're going. Mm-hmm. Now, there's going to be dream stealers like you were saying, okay? But you got to be damn proud of yourself from kicking them to the curb. You know, a lot of people would have just kept it. They would have just kept the comfort zone, right? So that tells me your identity is changing. But I want you to think, after I'm done with my corporate career, what do I want to do? Don't wait till you're done. That's where people make mistakes. Right. And I want you to think is, this next phase of my life, what do I want to spend my time doing? Mm-hmm. Okay. And it may sound so out of the blue right now, but the more you write it, the more committed you will become on a subconscious level. Writing is so powerful. A lot of people don't do it. They say, no, I know, but do they know? You know, so I want us to build your confidence right now. And you may say, Arash, I have a certain level of confidence. You do. But you also have a paradigm that you've been in the corporate world for so many years. So now we want to develop an even greater level of mindset for you. And that's what I would recommend for you. Great. I mean, you've only been with me since June. And look at what's transformed. I did this event in London in June, I believe. It was the end of June. And she said, Arash, I've been studying so many people, but I've never created a breakthrough without burnout. And I said, well, you've never worked with me. Because I think my work is really different because I really focus on the foundation first, which is our philosophy. And she's created 2 quantum leaps within 5-6 months and no burnout. I said, isn't that interesting? See, the ideas we accept are either serving us or keep our old story alive. So your new story is going to be completely different than your old one. And I want you to embrace that, you know, because your new story is going to be better than your old story. It's going to be more inspiring. You're going to have a lot of juice. I call it juice. You have a lot of fire inside, you know, like you could see your face, like you have great energy. If you keep doing the deep internal work, I promise you, we're writing our destiny anyway, but you're going to create an amazing future for yourself.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Arash.
All right. Looking forward to meeting you.
What could I do to sort of be that effective communicator or work with?
You've got to get in control of your emotions. First, I think you're working too hard at this right now. That's intuitively what I think. And it doesn't matter if you work from 4 to 6, if you're committing to the suffering while you're doing it. So when you're communicating to yourself, you've got to get really good at accepting and rejecting ideas. I want you to give yourself a directive that I'm not accepting another negative or limiting thought about myself. I'm going to cancel it right away. And so it starts with our thoughts. Our thoughts create our program. Our program creates our actions, and our actions create our results. Now, if you look at your income, because you brought up income, prosperity is impossible when we think lack. So just like I was telling Bill, we have to build an enormous image of ourselves and have it completely detached to what we've done in the past or present. We've got to completely never even think from that space. We only think from the space of what we want. Now, a lot of people don't prioritize their wants. Wants is where it starts. All of you have a want. And we've got to put more priority, but wanting is not about getting. A lot of people think it's about getting. I want you guys to receive so much good. I want you to have more money than you know what to do with. But wanting is about growing, and our want comes from the essence of who we are. So you telling me I want a bigger, better life for myself, that's because your soul is saying, all right, Alice, it's time to transform ourselves for real. I'm not just going to study this information, I'm going to become it. But I want you to make up your mind right now that you're going to create exactly what you want. We've got to accept that idea. And then anytime the old program comes in, because it's going to come in, you say, no, I do not accept that. And if you keep master stacking this, that's what I call it, master stacking. So the first master stack that we want to do for you, Alice, is get your thinking aligned with the person you want to become. And then once we get that master stacked, then we'll master stack another idea and another idea. So now you're creating all these ideas as a part of your identity, and then your results happen by default. First thing, it's much easier to create a new model than it is to change an old model. So what it sounds to me like, you're trying to change an old model, and I recommend you create a new model because it's much easier to walk into the new model than try to change an old model. So look at this a bit different. I want you to put your goal in your mind right now. Okay, do you have it? Okay, right there. Okay, right there is a big one. See, it doesn't matter how ambitious you are. It matters how you're programmed. And if you don't have a clear and definite picture of your goal, then you're giving your subconscious mind a double binding message. But the subconscious will always deliver to us the dominant of two messages. So right now, you've got to get clear on your goal and have a clear image of what that goal is. Until you do that, this work will not work. I promise you. So there's a lot of ambitious people who struggle. There's a lot of people who have master's degrees, PhD degrees, who are earning very little money. They are very ambitious, but it doesn't matter about the ambitiousness. It matters about our programs. All of us, if we all look at our results, they're all an exact reflection of our programming. So if we want better results, we've got to upgrade our programming. That's how it works. So I want you to make this as a wake-up call for you today. That says, you know what? I'm spending those 2 hours, but I'm still not clear of my goal. So I'm going to get very clear on my goal. And I want you to write out exactly how you want to live. And then I want you to record it on your phone. Listen to it 20 minutes a day, 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening. You have to get that so locked in on a subconscious level. And if you do that, you're gonna start thinking in a certain way. So that's what we have to do. You're a great example of what I used to do. But you don't want to follow that example of me because I was losing. I promise you. Like, I can relate to it. I can totally relate to it. One day my mentor said, you don't know this, you know about it. I was like, oh my God, he's so right. And he said, it's time to take off the training wheels and start doing it. And it was like a punch in the stomach that opened my heart and opened my eyes. It was like in that moment, I saw me differently. And it didn't happen in that moment, but you get these emotional impacts that like will really get you to wake up. And that's what I want this to be, okay? See, a lot of people will do affirmations, but then the rest of the day, they're behaving completely opposite of that affirmations, and they say affirmation doesn't work. It's not that it doesn't work, we're not working the ideas. So for the ideas to work, we have to work the ideas. You know, if you understand the research on neuroscience, it takes 66 days to change a behavior. So this 21 days, I know it was polarized, but to make it part of your identity, I've done it immediately to make things part of my identity. I've done it in 60 days, okay? But on average, the neuroscience tells us it takes 66 days to rewire a new belief. So you'll know when it's there because it'd be harder not to do than to do.
The most I have earned is $75,000. Can I still make that in a month? And what is the process? How do I reverse engineer this?
Well, of course you can make it in a month. The most I had ever earned is $110,000 in a year. And now I earn millions. It would be harder for me now not to earn $1 million than it would be to earn $1 million. But you have to have massive transformation. You can't be the same person you are and expect to turn your annual income into your monthly income. You have to change your programming. You have to upgrade your strategies, and you have to go all in with yourself. I say this all the time. Nothing is going to happen until you make a decision. But that decision has to be backed up with courage. So if one person can turn $75,000 a year into $75,000 a month, so can you. Like, I've turned my annual income into my monthly income several times over. I remember I was working with a client, and he was a construction worker. And he asked me the same question. He said, Arash, do you think I could do this? And I said, of course you could do it. It depends on if you're willing to do it. Are you willing to do it? And he said, I'm going to do exactly what you tell me to do. So he hired me. He hired me to coach him. And then I get a message. I've not only turned my annual income to my monthly income, he said, I turned it into my weekly income. See, everything is about us, but the challenge is people don't know who they are. They don't understand who they are. So they're trying to change. I hate the word try, but that's what they're doing. They're trying because we're either changing or we're not changing, but without knowing who we are. We're spiritual beings living in a physical body. How we are using our intellect that we were gifted with is creating our results. And so we have to understand that we're infinite. If you were infinite, you would never, if you knew who you were, you would never question whether you could do something. Why are people not courageous? Because they are more driven by their past than they are by how they want to live. See, you've got to activate your I don't give an F muscle. This is what I'm doing no matter what. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care how long it takes. But if I start taking care of me every day and start respecting myself enough to get in control of my thinking, get in control of my feelings, and get in control of my actions, I'm going to create the results. It is, I promise you, success is so simple. But if I brought success down to two key characteristics, it's attitude and effort. Attitude and effort. If I just boiled it down into the most simplistic way, it all comes down to attitude and effort.
Arash, just based on how you started this call and then the first couple of questions, you mentioned that people want to change, but they're not. So my question would be why? And I want you to also talk about courage. How you can't change without courage, without taking a risk, without making a big jump.
Well, I go back to last week because I emphasized this and I did it on purpose. Like, if you guys go back and watch it, how many times did I talk about radically accepting an idea? I did it on purpose. Your life is not going to change until you radically accept much higher ideas. Everything is energy. The minute we accept a higher idea, we go to a higher frequency and we attract based on frequency. Now, everything is about your awareness. Like, all your results are where your current level of awareness is. And so you're seeing the world from your awareness. And we have an amazing inner world that we have access to, that we can achieve anything we want once we start tapping into that inner world. So what happens, Mike, is people are living based on, I'm going to do a little bit better. I'm going to do a little bit better. And you have to go all in with yourself, but you want to understand your future self is not a little bit better. It is so much better. It is so much wiser than who we are. It is so much more courageous than who we are. And most people don't do hard things until they're forced to do hard things. And we've got to do hard better. There's no secret. Like, I don't look at anything hard or easy. It's just whatever it is, I got to do it. So once we simplify our processes, we're going to create a completely different life. But too many people are operating with a very skewed image of who they are. And so, like, if we look at these questions neutrally, like, and it's not just your questions, these are questions I get all the time. What I hear is people still holding back. You can't hold back. When I see somebody like Bill, he's like, somebody introduced me to you. That person's not exactly my kind of person, but he got me to you, and I've flourished since then, and I'm investing my time, only meeting me since June, coming to transform. I'm like, this guy is really getting it. That's what I think. That's what I think. I remember there was somebody who introduced me to my mentor, and he was not a very good person. We found that out. But my mentor and I used to say he gave us the biggest blessing because you and I would have never connected, So there's always, we were talking, I think it was Jill, with attitude. So we can find the good or the bad in everything, right? Like, you guys can listen to me and say, this dude knows nothing, okay? You can find what I'm doing wrong, or you could find what I'm doing right. So we want to get in the habit of looking for the good in everything. As you look for the good in everything, your whole world is going to change. And people say, oh, if I just look for the good, I'm telling you, it is going to get you to tap into that inner world of where that other person who has that want is wanting to be expressed. Your wants are not by accident. You guys are not on this call today and last week with us by accident. There's another side of you that's saying, come on, I want this so badly. But now you've got to get the proper direction on how to do it. Until you get the direction, nothing's going to change. The direction, and you follow that direction to the letter. Now, what I've discovered in coaching, and I've been doing this every day for 17 years. I always say I'm such a great example to this because I was a great follower before I became a great leader. Like, I was a great student. And I remember one day I called my mentor and I said, we were talking about coaching and we were talking about this client who wasn't doing what they should have been doing. I said, Bob, the reason my life changed so much is because I used to only do what was comfortable for me that you told me. But when I committed to, you said, you have to do exactly what I tell you to do. Once I committed, I surrendered to your process, even when it was uncomfortable. That's called coaching. See, we don't follow the direction. And if we don't follow the direction, you're not going to get the results. But when you follow the direction, you're going to get massive results. I have a client who was on our event last week who I've been working with closely for a couple years. Joe Kinkar. Joe follows direction. And Joe is creating an amazing life for himself. Joe has overcome so much of the old him. And he keeps coming back. That was like me. And I have several clients like that. Joe was just on my mind because I saw him in the event last week. But we've got to start getting real with ourselves. And you've got to stop tapping into the old you. What doesn't grow you, you've got to say no to. And that's really where the courage is going to come.